Got it. Hi, I'm Andy. I'm the owner and head chef of Poco Culina. Before I start, actually, just going back to something somebody said earlier about pumpkins, I started this week with on this mad mission to deal with a pumpkin that we grew on our allotment, which literally I could hardly get my arms around, and it was the only one we had. So I chopped it up, and I had 4 kilos of chopped up pumpkin, 2 of which I turned into pumpkin soup, and the rest is in the freezer, layered in 400-gram portions, so I can just roast it and cook it as we go. So yeah, pumpkins are very versatile things, aren't they? And definitely not to be left out in forests for birds after they've had candles in. But anyway, back to why I'm really here. So why do I do what I do, and who am I? So Poco Culina is all about plant-based food delivery and plant-based catering. Variety of different types of catering, from weddings to small parties to private chef bookings. I do cookery demonstrations as well. Don't really fly a massive vegan flag. That's not what I do. Why I do what I do. I am now vegan. I've been veggie for 40 years. But the important messages around that to me are encouraging people and talking to people about taking meat out of their diet once or twice a week, and really focusing on what they're eating once or twice a week, and also the environmental messages around why I do what I do, and the food that I serve, and the way I run my business. So that's what's really important to me. As B said earlier, Poco Culina's 8 years old this week. We launched at Cheltenham Vegan Fair on October the 31st, 2015. I spent about 3 days cooking enough food for 20 people, which I could probably do in a couple of hours now, and was sold out in around about 10 minutes. So that went ever so well. So I had nothing to do all day, apart from sheepishly apologize to people for the fact that I hadn't prepared anywhere near enough food. But hey, things have come a long way since then. So I started delivering food sort of fairly immediately after that. That seemed like quite a nice thing to do and a funky thing to do. And I told everyone that I was going to deliver in Cheltenham on my bike, which to an extent I still do. The business is too big for me to do. The delivery rounds are too big for me to do that entirely by myself now. So we do a organized, focused kind of car delivery, but I still do scuttle around and see customers on my bike. I was planning to do that today, and I'm trying not to look out the window because it's going to be a full-blown leggings job today, I think. But I think the things that excite me most about food are cookery from the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and the East. That's how I taught myself to cook 40 years ago when I first became veggie and moved away from home. And those were the things that people told me that excited me about the cooking that I did for them before I started the business. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, that's what Poco Culina does. Variety of things for a variety of clients of variety of sizes. But I think what I wanted to talk about today was the idea of eat well, work well. One of the things that people often say to me after in feedback after I've delivered lunch, usually for a kind of business sort of environment, is that they often comment that they've got through the afternoon and just felt really good having eaten the food that I prepared for them, not kind of got a little bit sort of sluggish and a little bit kind of unfocused in the middle of the afternoon, but, you know, almost the opposite. So I didn't so much look into why that was. I kind of knew why that was, but I thought I'd just think about it in a little bit more detail today and sort of communicate what my food sort of consists of to actually achieve that. I don't want to get scientific. I'm not a food scientist by any means. I'm a chef. But it's the foods that I avoid, the things that I naturally use, that actually create that sort of buzz, but also how I actually balance that with making food taste good. Nobody wants to think that I've eaten really healthy today. Yeah, but it was bit dull, wasn't it? Wasn't very exciting, was it? It's that balance of kind of excitement and benefit. So I guess the thing that I do consciously do is I avoid what are known as simple carbs. Now, simple carbs are in many ways derived from cheap white sugar, but can also include lots of processed foods, in particular sort of white processed cheap breads, cheap pastas and things. And the way that the impact that simple carbs have on the body is they create a blood sugar rise, which kind of gives you a little bit of a rush, and then half an hour later it's like that's energy sapped, energy gone. So I guess going back to my opening statement, if you consider a kind of business lunch type environment where you're eating floppy white bread sandwiches with some processed filling, what possible use is that going to be to sustain anybody from a digestive point of view or an energy point of view? So those are the things I avoid as a matter of course. None of those things ever enter my kitchen. However, carbs are good, and complex carbs are good. There's nothing really wrong with potatoes. Everything in moderation is always my mantra anyway. But also whole grains, oats are really good. Not that I use them terribly often, but legumes. So how would one describe legumes? So that would be pulses, so lentils, peas and broad beans, chickpeas, soybeans, black beans, and peanuts, actually, funny enough. All of those things are good for sort of sustainable kind of slow release energy, as are certain types of starches. So those starches could come from rice. Brown rice and wild rice tends to be better, but kind of basmatis and things are also not really in the simple carb category because they don't contain sugars. Pastas, little bit slightly different, but even then, cheap white pasta and cheap white bread, bad news. But good pasta, cereal grains, all of those things are kind of contributory to this sort of energy, this sort of slow release energy mass that sustains people throughout the day, not just to give themselves a big boost because they've got a business meeting in the afternoon, but just simply to sustain people out of the day. And a lot of you guys like me spend a lot of time working at home. It's just all too easy to keep sticking your nose in the fridge, isn't it? Which if you kind of like feed yourself sustainably, it sort of removes that temptation. I know it's a temptation. And the nature of my job means that I'm kind of picking at things all day in terms of tasting them and stuff. And half the time, to be honest, during the day, I forget to eat anyway, which isn't good for me. So I'm not really selling my message here very well. But yeah, keep away from the fridge, right? That's bad. That's bad. A lot of foods are thought to have benefits in terms of focusing on concentration. Now, we know for many years, obviously this doesn't feature in my kitchen, but for many years there's discussions around kind of oily fish and the benefits of that for concentration, particularly with young people and things. But how can I, and do I replace that? There are certain types of seeds which have those sort of omega benefits, chia seeds and flax seeds and things, not the sorts of things you'd kind of eat in handfuls by themselves, but the sorts of things that I can include into sauces and into sort of the elements that bind food together, shall we say. So that's really good. But simple things, blueberries are great. Blueberries are fabulous. They're an antioxidant, but they are just packed with benefits for people. And actually, they're probably one of the things I will allow you to put your hand into the fridge and reach for this afternoon. How about that? Tomatoes are also really good. I know a couple of people mentioned tomatoes as being their go-to can't live without vegetable. Tomatoes are great again because they're antioxidant. But they're also great for cooking with because they are so incredibly versatile. And tomatoes cooked into sauces, there's an argument that also says that cooked tomatoes are actually more beneficial to you than raw tomatoes. So tomatoes cooked into sauces to go with some nice, reasonable quality pasta.